I am Khushbu Soni, a host for the broadcast and a contributing editor at CIO News. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. This is an exclusive fireside chat powered by Avaya on transformation through customer experience. Businesses are built by the experiences they provide, and every day millions of those experiences are delivered by Avaya. Avaya is shaping what's next for the future of work with innovation and partnership that deliver game-changing business benefits. Let me dive in introducing our guest for today. He is Mr. Joy Kurian, Group Chief Technology Officer at Quess Corp Limited. Joy has 25 years of rich experience and is a leader with a proven ability to lead strategic programs and solutions in the area of service management, with a unique experience in building solutions around infrastructure management, business process operations. Joy in his leadership has, spent for 10 years with and almost 18 years of experience with in the areas of service management consulting operations with a mandate to drive business IT alignment, IT and asset development. Joy, it's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you, Khushbu, and thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Great, sir. So, along with me today is Gavin Rodrigues. He is the domain specialist across Avaya Contact Center Solution and Workforce Optimization Solution. Gavin is also a moderator for this session. And Gavin has 15 years of rich experience in providing contact center and workforce optimization solutions to its customers. With an experience in workforce management, with a demonstrated history of working in the outsourcing offshoring industry. Gavin is skilled in business process, operations management, service level agreements, customer relationship management, and quality management. Gavin, it's a pleasure to have you again.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for those kind words.
Hi, Gavin. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Joy. Good to see you, sir. Wonderful to have you on this session today. And let's begin off. Uh, the main question, we are all going through this COVID situation. Just wanted to understand you as a leader in your organization. How's your company that delivers various services and various verticals coping with the COVID scenario in today's times with technology?
Yeah, thanks, Gavin, for the question. And it's an apt question given the situation today, right? And we have been through this unprecedented times, which I would say you are unlucky to have it in once in 100 years, right? I mean,
Right.
still we were unlucky to have this kind of an event. And to be very fair on businesses and other entities, right? It's not something that people prepare themselves for, right? I mean, you would have seen multiple BCPs being done and DRs being done and planned, but
Mhm.
not of this magnitude, right? And this is a an event like this is a true test of the BCPs that you have planned for your organization. And we at Quest, had if you ask me, we had to put our BCPs through test through this time, and if you ask me, we did fairly well, so I remember very clearly. In fact, I joined Quest sometime in February last year, and in March is when this pandemic was that came in its full form, and the lockdown was announced. So one of the key challenges that we had to make sure that we one is definitely to make sure that our employees are safe. At
Mhm.
the same time, when everybody is working from home, how do you ensure that the business is running and the customers are not impacted,
True.
right? So we had taken some very specific measured steps to make sure that we don't impact the quality of delivery that we do from our side to our customers, right?
Mhm.
So first thing that we have to make sure that everything, every application and every system is available, accessible from home,
Okay.
right? And we had our applications hosted in either hosted data centers or on cloud. So that was something that was taken care of, and we were able to manage through that. At the same time, our employees, they should be able to access the application. They should have the device to access that, right? In some cases, we had employees who had desktops, So we immediately triggered our BYOD, or bring your own device policy, and we said, okay, you can actually start working using your own devices.
Hmm.
So while we do that, having working from home and bring your own device, we have to also make sure that these applications and the infrastructure components are secure enough, so that when you
Right.
bring in device, you don't bring some infected virus with that, right? And then you
Precisely.
go and infect all the virus. So we have to make our security also strong, not only at the end user or end device level perspective, but also at the entire infrastructure and application level. So we did that fairly well, and so eventually we were able to deliver to our clients, and people were able to work from home without any issue as such, right?
Right.
And that was one aspect of it. The other thing
Hmm.
was, things like contracts. A lot of our customers, a lot of our vendors, we need to have contracts which are hard copy,
Right.
right? And now when you're working from home, all your letterheads, everything is in office. How do you deliver that? So we have to actually go and convince them to actually move to a softer version, and then we have to enable digital signatures, soft copies, and we did that as part of the process. And now that has become a new norm, right? I mean,
Right.
while it brings a lot of challenges, but a lot of opportunities as well, from a service delivery perspective. And
Perfect.
and what we were also cognizant of the fact was, when
Hmm.
people are working from home, right, they are kind of getting isolated, right? Because when you're in
Correct.
office, you
So,
have.
sorry to interrupt you, Joy. And I was about to ask, good that you brought that point up. So, while you talked about joining in February, I also joined in April. So, similar journey I saw with other customers as well.
Mhm.
The primary question that I came across with the work at home model, right? Customers were facing issues or challenges in terms of adhering to compliance.
Correct.
So, in terms of your business, I think in the healthcare field, you would see a lot of compliances in perspective, a lot of data security being in the pinnacle of the business, right? So, what measures did you put in place so that compliance was in check and yet service delivery was optimum?
So, let me tell you, and one of the things that I would want to touch upon is on the entire digitization perspective, right? So,
Okay.
from a compliance perspective, one of the key things that we have been focusing on in the last couple of years was to make sure that we put a lot more focus on digitization, so that it becomes independent of the person and independent of human, doing some errors. And so we had the entire governance around compliance very tightly controlled, and everything was automated. So, you know from the time you go and go to a government compliance portal and upload your details, and the time you get the acknowledgement back, everything was automated. And we didn't find too much of a challenge from a compliance standpoint, because we had completely automated and digitized that part of our function.
Mhm. Perfect. While you talked about one, digitization, second, you talked about the cloud strategy. So, when you were moving to the cloud, or were you in process and moving to the cloud, what are the factors that you kept in mind that could basically take care of all your businesses? Because you have varied verticals, right? Right from IT sourcing to staffing solutions to healthcare, IT services, and so on. So, what measures did you put in place so that the cloud strategy works for any customer that you would onboard going forward?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting question. So, one of the things that we wanted to do was, while we had our application which were hosted in either a data center or a cloud, right? We had a public
Hmm.
cloud where we hosted some of our application, and some of our applications were hosted in data centers.
Right.
So one of the things we wanted to do was to, consolidate, while they were available, accessible from home, remote, everything. But one of the things we wanted was to really make sure that we consolidate and move from multiple hosting and data center to a couple of leading cloud providers. So that is one step we had taken, and it had its own advantage. I mean, we looked at, pros and cons in terms of what would it give us, right? For
Right.
example, uh, your business is typically, there are peaks that starts towards the end of the month and goes to the first 10 days of the next month. And how do you make sure that you're utilizing your resources optimally, right? I mean, do you have that level of scalability and elasticity available? How do you ensure that you have the right level of availability being delivered to you, right? So
Hmm.
these are some of the benefits that you get when you move to a public cloud, and at the same time you have to also make sure that we have the right level of security. So when
Right.
you move to these public clouds, either there are native security that they provide you, or you can go with your own security, to make sure that your application, your infrastructure is secure.
Hmm.
And of course, last but not the least, the cost. We
Right.
had to make sure that while we go through this pandemic, there was cost has been one of the areas that we had to focus on to make sure that we bring it down,
Hmm.
and we could do that by moving to public cloud.
Perfect. Talking about cost, I think you have multiple offices. So, in terms of coupling these two pieces, managing the cost and also having a digitization framework in place, right? So, how how would be the experience in terms of a maybe a solution in place, right? That could seamlessly work across locations, uh, and looking at the perspective where a link failure could also impact you. So, how was that taken care?
Okay, so that's a point. That's a good point. We have multiple offices, and during this pandemic, we also consolidated a lot of our offices.
Okay.
Right? So we actually pressed all the buttons that were possible for us to make sure that the impact is minimum of this pandemic. So we consolidated a lot of our offices. At the same time, we spoke to our service providers. We actually renegotiated with our service providers, be it network providers or your internet providers. We looked at once we brought people consolidated into one offices, we had to make sure that the network gets upgraded, because earlier the capacity was different. Earlier the requirement of redundancy was different. You
Right.
know, so those things were done as part of this exercise. So we have much fewer offices now than pre-pandemic days, and it was all part of the exercise that we does as part of consolidation.
Okay. Perfect. Talking about technology further, I mean, these days every customer I speak to talks about analytics, talks about AI. So, what are your views around these two aspects?
Yeah, that's the in thing, right? I mean, while a lot of customers are talking about analytics and AIs, I
Hmm.
think it goes beyond customers, if you ask me, right? I mean, to me, customers are one aspect of analytics and AI, and there are other aspects of analytics and AI that we have figured out that we need to put in place. And just to give you a perspective, right? I mean, over a period of few years, in the last few years, Quest as an organization has grown organically and inorganically. And when we acquire companies and bring them under the umbrella of Quest, they come with their own systems and processes. Now, the challenge that brings in is, when you bring your own system, you have to make sure that that system integrates with your existing system that you have within Quest, right? And
Right.
otherwise, you have data lying around all the places, and so one of the things that we did was, and we continue to do, is to
Hmm.
make sure that we have a data lake. We basically bring in all the data possible from all the sources we have across Quest, and we run analytics on it. Now, as I said, analytics, while we have customer as one aspect of analytics, we are also looking at, how we can run analytics on associates. So large number of our organization, right? I mean, 350 to 400,000 associates are part of Quest. How do
Hmm.
we know more about our associates through this analytics, right? How do we know more about our own employees, right? How do we, get more insight into the numbers that we are talking about,
Right.
right? So these things were the targets. So we had some 4 5 buckets through which we said, we need to see our data through these lenses,
Okay.
you know right from customer to employee to associate to finance to compliance, and then come up with some meaningful insights that will help our leaders to take decisions.
Nice, nice perspective. I mean, yes, in these pandemic times, definitely the employee becomes the forefront, right? And the good thought that you've looked into the employee well-being, what are the measures that you can take to look at how they are facing issues. Fantastic. Uh, In terms of understanding further on this particular aspect of employees, did you also invest in any solutions that basically make their life easier to do their day-to-day work? Did you take that step in this pandemic, or are you planning to do that?
Okay, from as I said, one of the things that we were concerned, and we put significant effort to make sure that life of our employees become easy, is to make sure that they don't they collaborate, continue to collaborate while they're working from home,
Right.
right? When you're in office, you can collaborate much easily, but when you're working from home, it becomes very, very difficult and isolated. And that level of collaboration, for example, we had set guidelines saying that, whenever you have a meeting with your team members or with whoever, make sure that you have the camera on, right? Because when you have that face to face interaction, right, you are much more, you have a much more personal touch, rather than having the video off and just talking over over the collaboration tool. So that is
Right.
one thing. Then we had more leadership connects that we did. We did town hall at an organization level. Then we did town halls at individual business entities level, to make sure that the people are not really feeling isolated. At the same time, from a productivity point of view, uh, we didn't want to measure our employees on how they are doing on a day-to-day basis, what they're working on, what they're not working on, but we were looking at them more from a outcome driven or deliverable driven productivity, rather than trying to measure them on a day-to-day basis and see what they are doing. While you have all the tools available today, right? I mean, you can, for example, go to Microsoft and see how many mails they were sending pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, how many meetings they were attending, and those kind of things you can do. But we
Sure.
kind of said we will measure them on the outcome rather than seeing them what they are doing on a daily basis.
Fantastic, Joy. Nice perspective in terms of employee well-being and the outcome-driven approach that your organization has taken. And truly, with a large organization of your size, it's only going to show you uh, the next step in how you could improvise on these two aspects using technology, using processes. So I've got a fantastic perspective today, Joy, and in fact, I've spoken to multiple customers. So this particular perspective has only added to my learning with customers. Thank you so much for that. It was lovely talking to you today, and all the best for you as well as your organization.
Thank you, Gavin, and absolutely, it was great chatting with you.
Same here, sir. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Joy, for sharing all your wonderful insights and your journey with us on CIO News. I'm sure the viewers are going to get great insights. So thank you so much. And thank you, Gavin, for moderating the session.
Thanks, Khushbu.